Well, glory be and mercy me, we've done it yet again. Here we are on the daily walk. Today, I would like to talk about Conservative MP from Saskatchewan, Brad Redekopp, responding to Matthew Green of the NDP. He's an MP here in Toronto. First, I'll start by addressing John. Why this seems like low-hanging fruit, don't you think? A Conservative MP from Saskatchewan said something about capitalism, and now you're responding to it? Well, guess what, kids? The Conservatives seem to have agreed amongst themselves to simply not actually talk about capitalism, not actually talk about the death cult that they all serve, so as to avoid actual conversation, criticism, growth, learning, any of that kind of stuff, because they don't like evidence, they don't like facts, they don't have compassion, they don't have empathy. And so silence is the order of the day, which is what Matthew Green essentially comes out and pins them with, which is accurate. It's their strategy of survival, right? You can't say someone's wrong if you don't actually talk about what's wrong. And Brad Redekopp, Saskatchewan MP, stood up, took the bait, and made a video. So I'm going to play the video in full, and then I'm going to talk about it.
If you own a business or you know anybody that owns a business, you need to listen to this video to understand how the NDP thinks and what they think about capitalism.
All these Conservative Party critiques on household inflation today in question period, and not one critique on capitalism. All this tough talk on the dumpster fire, and they don't got one thing to say about the arsonist.
So Matthew Green and the NDP think that capitalism is an arsonist, that capitalism is killing our world. So apparently, no private businesses. Everybody works for the government. The government is great. We need more government. Capitalism is important. Capitalism is what drives people. We have a housing crisis in this country. We need all hands on deck. We need the private sector, the public sector, the not-for-profit sector, everybody. This is why we're so concerned about the upcoming parliament, with the NDP supporting the Liberals on everything they do. Like and follow for more.
So Brad Redekopp seems like a nice guy, doesn't he? Right? Seems like a nice, hard-working fellow. I've looked into his history, right? He worked for Case for a good period of time, and then started up a business building houses, right? Right in the middle of a housing crisis, right? The guy is building houses, selling them off to billionaires, likely, right? Like, that's his strategy. Build these McMansions, sell them off. Capitalism's the best, right? So
Matthew Green and the NDP think that capitalism is an arsonist, that capitalism is killing our world.
This essentially confirms everything we've feared about the Conservative Party the whole time. They are illiterate, clueless boobs who basically don't have anything interesting to say when it comes to the subject of capitalism. Capitalism is an arsonist that is destroying our world. Climate change is real, right? But we're talking about conservatives, right? 50% of them, the majority of conservatives, still think that climate change isn't real, right? They voted for it in their own party. They voted for it in their own caucuses, right? They're still walking around pretending like climate change isn't real as BC floods, as the wildfires overtake Ontario, as Lytton burns down, right? Climate change isn't real. Capitalism has nothing to do with it. These two things are not connected whatsoever, even though they definitely 100% are. So here you see the Conservative strategy is still outright denialism, right? They are not interested in actually participating in the reasonable conversation. They're not interested in growing up. They're not interested in being adults. They're not actually interested in being adults in the room, making important decisions for one another, which is why they're so dangerous. Oh, speaking of dangerous.
Capitalism is important. Capitalism is what drives people.
A bleaker worldview has never been espoused. Simply saying that capitalism is what drives people, not friends, not family, not respect, not community, right? Not the hope that you'll build a better future for your children. None of that, right? What actually drives people is the relentless pursuit for endless profits, while sacrificing everything along the way. A man like Brad Redekopp is going to tell you that, well, people should die for capitalism, right? That he isn't subserviating himself to the forces of the universe, a concept like God, any of this kind of stuff. He is subserviating himself first and foremost to the capitalist death cult, sacrificing everything before it. This is the reason why they wanted to throw workers back into a pandemic. This is the reason why they have to deny that climate change exists. This is the reason why they continuously espouse a system that says, hey, we should profit off of other people's misery, and if they don't want to be miserable, then they should get better jobs working for the capitalist death cult, right? These people are outrageously existential nihilists, right? That they literally are saying out loud to your face that we should sacrifice human life for capitalism because that's what drives us. I can't even imagine a bigger insult to the human spirit. I can't imagine a larger insult to humanity than to say that, oh, the thing that drives you isn't this internal beating pulse that the universe itself gives you, right? You're a quantum being walking around in a quantum energy. Certainly, that has nothing to do with what drives you. Certainly, your impulses towards seeking food and shelter, sexual gratification, right? Certainly, these things have nothing to do with what drives you. No, the thing that drives you is the fake money we all made up, and the relentless accumulation of that instead of having breathable air and workable land or any of this kind of stuff, right? Brad Redekopp is telling you to your face that anything that you think is important, anything that you think matters, right, is foolish. What matters is the relentless pursuit of profits and the sacrifice of all things at that altar. This is a death cult.
We have a housing crisis in this country. We need all hands on deck. We need the private sector, the public sector, the not-for-profit sector, everybody.
And then here's Brad's seminally embarrassing statement. Well meant, I'm sure, right? Well meant, I'm sure. Without any realization whatsoever that we can't resolve these problems with capital involved. Capital will actually work to prevent us from solving these problems. Capital will actually work in order to make sure that the problems persist, to make sure that the housing crisis will never end, to make sure that inflation will continue going up, to make sure that the climate issue is never resolved. Why? Because the capitalists are making money from these problems. They are driven by capitalism in order to destroy us and to destroy the species. That any agreement or any conversation that we have that includes the capitalists is one destined to fail. And it is destined to fail because the capitalists will sacrifice our lives and will sacrifice the lives of their own children in order to subserviate themselves to the demand of the death cult, which is the pursuit of relentless profits in order to get something we invented and made up in the first place. So, this is the end of this video, right? Men like Brad Redekopp don't care about their own children. They don't care about the future of humanity. They don't care about anything. What they care about is their own personal ambition, which they explicitly tell you to your face, that they will destroy everything in order to get slightly more money in a bank account somewhere, while attempting to deceive you and con you into believing that if they're involved in the conversation, that they will help in any way. They're an embarrassment. There's a reason why the conservatives can't gain power in this country. There's a reason why conservatives need to be wiped out completely along with the liberals. And that reason is very simply, these are illiterate, moronic children who cannot actually be involved in serious conversation because they worship a capitalist death cult that has actively structured itself in order to destroy us. All right, if you've made it to this point, like, share, subscribe. I could use some money down on my Patreon down below, right? I've got rent to pay just like everybody else. We haven't quite gotten to the point yet where that's not a thing. Oh, hey, incidentally, did you know that in the Soviet Union, the average rent that you were allowed to pay was only 4% of income? I spend 60% of my income on rent. Huh, funny how that works. Huh, get rid of the capitalists. Throw them out of the conversation. Rebel, revolt, repent, and most importantly, remember that you are a quantum being living in quantum energy. Your time here is temporary. The damage that the capitalists want to do to this system is not. Good luck. We're gonna need it.